Hola, ¿cómo están? And what's going on, guys? DarkScheme here, bringing you something a little bit different. And the reason why is because this is actually my 100th video uploading to YouTube, so I feel it was like a big deal. And I've been trying to make this video for like the past week, not this video specifically, but just the topic of this video. And the topic is video games as a sport. And the reason why it took me so long is because I kind of was trying to answer a question that I had already answered myself. So that question was, should competitive video games be considered a sport? And one of the reasons why I was trying to answer this question specifically was because Halo was at the X Games last weekend. And the problem was the question was hard to discuss. And the reality was that it was hard to discuss because video games don't actually have to be considered a sport in order for it to grow. It's already growing on its own, and I think we're at a point with competitive video games that getting exposure on sites like ESPN is great, but it doesn't actually need it. It does help out though. Don't get me wrong, this is just my opinion, and this entire video is just my opinion specifically for this. So I pretty much ended up rephrasing the question from should competitive video games be considered a sport to what do competitive video games need to do next? And this is kind of referring to increasing the growth of it or just the next big thing for competitive video games. So if sports wasn't an option, if ESPN did not have an esports portal on their site, for me personally, I think it has to be content driven. It needs to be creating content on YouTube, live streaming, things like Twitch, and overall social media involvement. And one of the reasons why I decided that this is one of the main bases is because this is kind of involving the scene of every single competitive video game in its entirety. It is involving the players who are playing to compete for players who are competing, and also players in the scene. It doesn't necessarily have to be professional players who are competing in said games. So one of the reasons why is that players who create content end up being these personalities, and their personalities can actually be them in real life or personalities that they kind of just become while they're creating this content. And one of the biggest examples is Optic Gaming. And for those who don't really know, Optic Gaming is an esports organization mainly focused in Call of Duty, but they started expanding into Halo, into CSGO recently. But they are also a content-driven organization, meaning that every single player or most players are actually making videos daily and kind of just giving an insight into a day-to-day life of a professional gamer. And this doesn't have to specifically talk about competing players. It is professional gamers, people who are just creating content on a daily basis inside the scene. So in reality, it's kind of just giving a day-to-day of every single player who was on a certain team, or a day-to-day of people who are just creating content for those. And it's something interesting to watch, and it also makes players relatable in a sense that you feel like you have known them for a very long time. And because it's a day-to-day thing, it's a daily basis thing, it's kind of just like a way for people to get themselves involved within the scene and to support those players, to support them by watching these videos. And for those who also don't know, Optic Gaming actually has the biggest fan base following in their scene, and in the competitive Call of Duty scene at the moment. And this doesn't mean that they are the biggest thing. It's just one of the examples that I see, and one of the reasons why they do this is because of the fans and the involvement of the fans and the support that they get. So the next big thing for content and creating content would also be sponsored collaborations, which would be really cool because it wouldn't just be one certain video game scene being involved. It could be multiple scenes. So having the same sponsor as CLG or EG could be really cool because they would get some sort of collaboration going on. And not even just with players and other players, it could also involve different scenes, completely not even video game related, collaborating with actual athletes, collaborating with celebrities, and collaborating with just every type of internet celebrity that there is. Internet personalities would be really nice to see something along the lines of promoting things, but in reality just having some sort of involvement where fans of one player could also become a fan of another internet personality, another celebrity, because they are themselves involving and taking time out of their day to involve themselves with said player of a certain scene. So I know it's a little complicated. I know I'm not explaining it the best, but overall, all you have to really know is collaboration would be really cool and kind of key to involve not just one fan base, but having different fan bases come into the mix. And content-driven media is kind of where I'm at now. I feel like this is the next step. I think the next topic, which is promoting and advertising games, advertising tournaments, is kind of already being done, but at the same time, it needs to be done more. And this is still media focused. So player collaboration can work here as well. Having players come on and promote their tournaments that they're going to be playing in, promoting things before the actual tournament happens, and actually putting it out there. I know that there's been a few commercials that have been shown for the Halo Championship Series in things like movie theaters before the movie actually started, and having those things and having those types of advertisements would be really cool to see. I'm not sure how it would work on billboards. Maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't, but just advertising in general would be a great way to get the word out of these tournaments and things like that. And I think one of the greatest examples here is UFC. And UFC is a great example because these promotions that they make are always great. They have an involvement from different fighters who are fighting in every single event. And they also kind of just start this nice little like smack talk between every single fighter. So if there's a rivalry going on, you can clearly tell that there's a rivalry because of what they're saying in these interviews. And it's kind of just a way to get the word out that, oh, these fighters don't like themselves, so it's going to be a good fight. You know, it's kind of one of those things. So when there's some sort of rivalry or there's just something that you can go off of from a team versus team basis, it would be interesting to see. You know, one of the biggest examples for Halo is Lethal leaving EG. I think that was the biggest thing. So for the longest time, for the whole week, the next online tournament that there was, it was EG versus CLG. And Lethal did end up leaving EG for CLG, and they played each other. EG versus CLG was already a rival match because they would always finish in the finals a tournament, so it would be them in the finals. It would be EG versus CLG, and having EG versus CLG, but having one of the players go from EG to CLG was something different, and it created this rivalry. And because it happened at one of like the worst times for teams, it caused a big mess of team changes. So having that was crazy. Having EG versus CLG at the X Games was a big deal for everybody. Everybody watching was going crazy, and when Evil Geniuses ended up beating CLG, it was kind of just one of those moments for a lot of people that they were happy that EG was able to win and that Lethal made the wrong choice. You know, it's kind of just one of those things that you want to promote, and the players themselves involve themselves in those rivalries, but you kind of just want to promote those things. And while some people do believe that having drama out of the mix is the best for the scene, always having a little bit of drama, as long as it's keeping good sportsmanship and keeping it in the game, is good in my head. But that is pretty much all my thoughts, really, to give you guys. I'm kind of just speaking out loud, and I don't want to go on for too long. So this is one of the first vlogs that I'm making. I've already made one vlog before, but this is kind of more of an official thing. So let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about video games, competitive video games, and what they should do next? What is the next big thing that competitive video games need to do next? Maybe involving the players, maybe involving the organizations, and maybe involving the developers of said game. But yeah, let me know in the comment section. And as always, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.